Welcome back. A warning tonight about romance scams. They're affecting older adults at significant rates. Tammy Elliott explains what sets these apart from typical scams in this Consumer First Alert.
Instead of an urgent payment like many scams, love scammers try to build a connection. Over weeks or months, they gain their victims' trust. New research from AARP shows nearly 1 in 10 adults 50 and older have been targeted by an online romantic connection who then asked for money or promoted cryptocurrency investment.
I just talked to a victim last week that had $400,000 stolen from them in one of these scams.
A viewer in Fond du Lac County didn't lose money, but he wanted people to see how messaging moves to money. In this case, she writes to him, "There are more meaningful things we can do before we meet, not to mention teaching you about Bitcoin. This is my strength. You can teach me your strengths too." And then there's another message. It says, "I've been working in this field with my father for 4 years, and we've been doing quite well. This is my profit from last year. Take a look." She shares the screen. Over $1 million. He resisted opening an account and contact stopped. AARP has a strong warning about these kind of conversations.
If anybody online is asking you or encouraging you to invest in cryptocurrency, it's 100% a scam, and stop communicating with them. No legitimate cryptocurrency is being pitched on social media, and certainly by someone you do not know.
Watch for signs of a romance scam. They'll say they're unable to meet in person. They want to move the messaging off the dating app or social media platform. They claim to be or know an expert crypto trader and make persistent offers to help you trade or invest. You should stop communicating, block them, and report it.
For some reason in our society, we blame the victims of these crimes when we need to blame the criminals. And a lot of these victims have shame, and the shame keeps them silent.
AARP says more than half of victims never report these scams. It's important to reduce the stigma, talk about these, and encourage the importance of reporting it to law enforcement, especially if the victim lost money. Tammy Elliott, Action 2 News.